Welcome everyone, I'm the Depressio, and this is Arkham Horror the card game. This is an LCG, also known as a living card game. This usually means you build a deck for a investigator character that you will play through a campaign. And as you go through the various scenarios, you will be able to your deck will change with various upgrades and other things that the story may also introduce. This is a game I've been very interested in, but I haven't played it as much as I would like. I've recently started playing it again with my board game group, as we've been waiting for Madara to kind of finish up with their stuff. There is a living card games can be a bit of a wall first jumping into it because it involves deck building, which can be very complicated, especially if you have access to all the cards, which this TTS module does have access to all of them. There is a website known as Arkham DB, also known as Arkham Deck Builder, which will pretty much do a lot of the deck building stuff for you. It will only work with investigators that are actually part of the game, though there are custom-made investigators that are in this TTS module, including Toho characters. Though there's not that many Toho characters, and I don't plan on playing them anytime soon. For the same reason I just mentioned, which is you can only build decks with actual legit investigators. But Arkham DB is very good about making sure your deck is actually following the rules and all that good stuff. Certain characters have very complicated deck building rules, and some have more simplified ones. My intention is to play through all the campaigns. Personally, I have not played through all of them. I've played through some of them. Most of them I've been playing on easy difficulty. I do intend on staying on easy difficulty. Easy difficulty, the difficulty levels generally just affect RNG. It affects kind of like the number of tokens you have. It'll generally take away some of the plus and zeros and add more negatives as you go higher in difficulty. Personally, I like staying on easy. One, because I'm probably just a filthy casual, but also I'm still consider myself rather inexperienced with this game. And also for characters that tend to be a bit, well, having certain stats like a 3 or a 2 is not the end of the world on easy difficulty, which is kind of helpful. That being said, I've in my board game group, we've been playing it on easy, and we've had people, die and go insane still. So it is still a very dangerous game. And much like Madara, this is a game that even in failure, you could still potentially fail forward to a point. And so I'll be playing through this. There are a lot of different investigators. I'll be playing, in general, I'll usually be playing only female characters, but I will try to use different investigators for every campaign as best as I can. For the first campaign, it is known as Night of the Zealot. Most campaigns tend to have about 8 scenarios. Night of the Zealot, which is part of the core game, core box set, only has 3. It's generally seen as a very good introduction and tutorial about the game's mechanics, though most people generally dislike the 3rd scenario, which we can dive into that once we run into it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll do these first few videos are definitely going to be slow because I've never actually done videos on Arkham Horror before, or at least not the LCG. As mentioned, I will be playing this on easy, and if some of you guys have already seen some of the investigators, I might as well just go over the investigators at this point. So investigators, there are 5 classes, though there's technically also a neutral class, which generally has no affiliation. But there's Seeker, Rogue, Survivor, Guardian, and Mystic. And each of them kind of have their own specializations, though with the variety of investigators and a variety of cards that are available, you can definitely mix and match in some ways, and also make sort of flex builds as well. So I'll be going over the investigators as best I can and kind of give a peek at my deck and kind of explain what I'm trying to do with it, and then kind of move on. Even though I'll be playing this on TTS and usually play this on TTS, I've been gradually buying the physical copies little by little to kind of support the developer. So as always, even though this is on Tabletop Simulator, be sure to, if you are interested in this game, to do your best to support the devs. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about our first investigator, who's probably going to be our lead investigator. So I'll go ahead and make her lead. All right, so we have Ursula Downs, the Explorer. Each investigator has the following. Their card itself will be a color based off their class. In this case, she is a seeker, which is yellow. Up in the top right, you have the 4 primary stats. Most people call them by their symbols, head, book, fist, and foot. But it's essentially, I believe, like will, intelligence, strength, and agility, I think it is. But essentially, these are used for various skill checks, which we'll go into more later. For her skills, it's having 4. Generally, you want to have 5 in whatever you're primarily doing. In this case, she'll be using book mostly. She only has a 4, but she does have some abilities that can kind of help mitigate that. Usually, the book and fist are your do something skills or do something stats. Book is usually used for finding clues and investigating, and fist is usually used for fighting. Meanwhile, the will and agility is usually used in a defensive way, usually reacting to the various mythos and events that will be coming your way. Though, as always, there's exceptions. There are cards that sometimes use foot. There's also, of course, mystics tend to use their will more often than they use their book, simply because spells and things like that. Anyway, also, every investigator has a special ability, which is either passive or active or both. And then they'll have something that is an effect that comes every time they draw the Elder Sign token whenever they do a skill check. And then towards the bottom is their health and sanity, which is just how much damage and how much sanity they can afford to take before they inevitably fall. And we'll go over more about that later. There's also some flavor text. I will be reading all the flavor text and story stuff as we go along. So for Ursula Downs, you see it says, discovery is easy, understanding is the hard part. Her special ability is after she moves to a location, she can immediately take an investigate action, limit once per round. So what this means is you generally have 3 actions per round, and everything usually takes, usually the primary actions like movement and investigate usually takes an action each. So usually it'll be like I move and then I investigate. But in the case of Ursula, she would actually be able to move and then use her ability to investigate and still have 2 actions to spare. All right, on the back of the cards has her deck building rules. Her deck size is 30. That does not include her weaknesses and her exclusive cards. Every character has an exclusive card, and at least one exclusive card and at least one weakness specific to them. Also, every deck that you build will also give you a random basic weakness, which is a more generic weakness. So, in essence, even though it says deck size 30, it's actually 33 cards in this case, because of the 2 weaknesses and then her exclusive. All right, deck building options. She gets to use all of her secret cards. Most class characters of their usually get full access to their own class, though there are exceptions. So Ursula being a seeker and having access to all secret cards, 0 through 5, is completely normal. Her other thing is usually known as a splash, which is just kind of an off color that's added to the deck to kind of change things up. In Ursula's case, her splash is relic cards, so anything that is labeled as a relic, she can actually add to her deck. Unfortunately for Ursula, most relics are also secret cards, so it doesn't really give so much of a benefit for her. She also gets access to neutral cards 0 through 5, which is generally pretty common for almost every investigator. All right, and then you can see below there, it just mentions that you have to have her specific exclusive card, which is Jake Williams, has to have her weakness, which is Call of Unknown, and then a random basic weakness. Not many people can say that they've climbed a mountain on every continent. Few still can say they've stolen a golden idol from a tribe of cannibals. Among women in a male-dominated society, Ursula is unique in being able to make these sorts of claims. Ever since she was a small girl, Ursula has broken the rules set down for her, climbing trees, playing in the mud, exploring the woods, and doing plenty of other things that a proper young lady shouldn't be doing. Since getting a degree in archaeology in Boston, she has been traveling the world searching for forgotten civilizations. And there you go. As for her deck, I'll go ahead and just show this off briefly. So she's the term is usually Cluver, which means a character that's focused on collecting clues. You do need to collect clues to progress the game, so it's a very important role. So most of her stuff is just about improving her way to investigate. She does have a few relics. If you look at this card here, sorry, it's a little hard to see. Well, you can see underneath the picture it says item relic. That's what you need to look at if you want to see things like the keywords the cards have. But yeah, some of this stuff also is just ways to help her move. Like, for example, shortcut. She can actually use this to move without taking an action, which means she can trigger her ability without triggering any actions at all, which is pretty helpful. Her basic weakness is here. It was picked randomly whenever I made the deck here, or imported the deck here. Speaking of importing, Arkham DB, which is the Arkham deck builder thing, everything always comes with a code. And on this TTS module, you can go ahead and type in that code, and it'll import the deck for you. And if you have it set so you get a random basic weakness, it'll also get you a random basic weakness for you. So it's very, very helpful instead of having to do everything by hand. Anyway, basic weakness here is Psychosis. It gets added to our threat area, which means it lingers. And every time she takes horror damage, which is what affects your sanity, she also will take 1 direct damage. What direct damage means is anything that says direct means it has to go on Ursula. Sometimes when you take damage, you may have other cards that can also soak hits and soak horror. In which case, usually when you get assigned any sort of damage, you can assign them to those cards instead. But if it's direct, it has to go on her. And then those little arrows and discard Psychosis. Arrows mean actions. So this has 2 arrows, which means it takes 2 actions. But if you spend those 2 actions, you can discard the card. This is how you get rid of the card. Otherwise, it just stays forever, and you have to deal with the penalty. Besides that, yeah, like I said, this deck it does use pretty much all the expansions for the most part. But yeah, you can see kind of the names here, and if necessary, I can probably provide some links to some of the decks. I will warn you, some of these decks are not great. Deck building is definitely a science or art that you have to gradually learn. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about our other character. We got Jenny Barnes. Jenny Barnes is a rogue. Rogue is usually shown as a green color, so you got green here. All of her stats are 3s. 3s are generally seen. So usually, like I said, you need to have like a 4 or 5 in your do something stat. Having 3s in everything is actually kind of an awkward state to be in, because it implies that you want to be kind of a flex, but you also kind of suck at everything. So Jenny's kind of weird that way. Anyway, her special ability is she just gets an additional resource every time each upkeep phase. On the upkeep phase, you usually draw 1 card and gain 1 resource. So in the case of Jenny, she would actually gain 2. Her Elder Sign just means she gets to get additional bonuses for the more resources you have. For the most part, I'm not going to be too concerned about the Elder Sign abilities because those are pretty rare to happen. She has an 8 and 7 for her health and sanity, which is actually technically 6 and 7 because I already start with damage, which I'll talk about in a bit. On the other, we got flavor text. No more Miss Barnes from you. My friends call me Jenny. Also, she's the Deliantante or Deliantante. Oh, there it goes. All right, so deck building, 30 card size or 30 deck size. Sorry. She has access to Rogue 0 to 5, Neutral 0 to 5, and then up to 5 other level 0 cards that could be any other class. So, literally any of the other classes. For the most part, for the deck building I'm doing for this, I went with Guardian, which will be blue cards. Deck building options. She also goes. So one thing to note about Jenny, she does have she has alternate exclusives and weaknesses. So in the base Jenny, she gets access to her twin 45s, and then she has Searching for Izzy as her weakness. I actually am going with the alternates, which I'll talk about when I show off the deck. Anyway, Jenny Barnes has spent the majority of her young life in pursuit of creature comforts, fine dining, and the latest fashions. That all changed when she received a letter from her sister, Isabel. In this letter, Isabel confessed that mysterious forces were aligning against her and that she feared she may fall victim to some paranormal threat. It was the last letter Jenny received from her beloved sister. Jenny has since returned to the States to track down and investigate all occult occurrences she can find. Hardly a wilting flower, she has proven herself a crack shot as well as a fearless and clever investigator of the unknown. Until Isabel's disappearance is explained, Jenny will never relent in her search. Okay. So, over here, I have a permanent effect known as In the Thick of It. On deck creation, you can purchase this and add it to your deck, or add it into your build, essentially. And what it does is you have to add a total of 2 total physical or mental trauma. I chose physical trauma. And what trauma does is if it's physical, every point of physical trauma, you will start with a damage at the start of a scenario, and every mental trauma makes you start with a horror. The benefit of this is you get to start with 3 experience. Most decks start with 0 experience, so you're stuck with just the level 0 cards. But with 3 experience, I was able to go ahead and just start with this card. So if you look at this card, in the top left, there's those little dots. That 3 of them are highlighted. That represents that this is a level 3 card and usually will cost 3 experience. So Streetwise is a permanent effect, which means it doesn't even go in your deck. It just stays in play at all times. And what it does is I can, as a lightning bolt action, which is essentially a fast action that can be done at certain points. Mainly you'll be doing this during a skill check. You can spend 2 resources, and you can get either 3 book or 3 foot for that skill test. So this is a way to kind of make up for rather mediocre stat line. Because with 2 resources, I can essentially have either 6 foot or 6 book. Anyway, as for the rest of the deck, it's mostly so one of the trap I feel like there's a little bit of a trap for Jenny is since she kind of has that weird stat line where everything is even. You may feel like you want to do a lot of flexing, but to be honest, Jenny's stats are so kind of mediocre to bad that you kind of want to just focus on something. So for this, I just focused on being a goon, which generally focuses on fighting. So I have some firearms in here. I have some various event cards that are focused on dealing damage. I have some stuff to help get my items out. And then instead of having her 45, she has the Green Man Medallion, which is a replacement card. If you replace the exclusive card, you have to replace the weakness. So instead of finding Izzy, I also have the Sacrificial Beast, which will make things a bit more difficult for me. As for her basic weakness, she has Drawing the Sign, which will go into her threat area, and it will reduce her maximum hand size by 5. The hand size is 8 by default, so getting this out will reduce her hand size down to 3. Now you can spend 2 actions to go ahead and discard it, so there is a way to get rid of it. Alright, besides that, oh yeah, I mentioned that I was going with Guardian cards, so I do have 5 blue cards in here. 2 of them are Vicious Blows, which just help for dealing damage. She also has a Wolf Mask, which is just for helping with fighting. And where are her other blues? Oh, and she has physical trainings, which when she gets those out, she can spend money to kind of help her willpower and strength. And that's kind of the gist of it. All right, give me a moment. All right, let's go ahead and begin the scenario. All right, the Ghoul's Hunger, rather. Friday, September 18th, 1925, Arkham, Massachusetts. It is the end of a long and abnormal hot summer. The first hints of autumn beckon, but a heavy heat persists, relentless. A silent, unspoken anger grips the town. Tempers are short, and in the last week alone, there have been numerous reports of townspeople coming to heated, violent blows with one another over simple misunderstandings. And now a call from James Hankerson. He claims to have found a dismembered body in his barn. Blaming the weather would be too easy. There is something wrong with this town, and not a whole lot the soothsayer can do to stop the slide. My auguries indicate a small group of investigators will soon take note of these strange happenings and be set forth to make things right. I'll be watching their progress, but I won't be holding my breath. So for campaign setup, you choose your investigators, which I have already. It's going to be Ursula and Jenny. You assemble your deck, which I've already done. You choose a difficulty level. I am going with easy. As you can see, it affects the token bag, which will affect essentially affects probability. Let's just put it that way. I believe also on hard and expert, these little symbol tokens, the skull, the cultist, and the tablet, will have unique effects depending on the scenario. On hard and expert, I believe they have harsher effects on hard and expert, though easy and standard will have the same. Anyway, campaign log. Yeah, so this is just ways to keep track of things like experience points, trauma levels, and once you hit a certain... Well, I didn't... There's one thing I forgot to mention about trauma. If your trauma ever reaches your max health or sanity, you will be permanently killed or insane. In which case, you can't play that investigator anymore and you have to replace it. All right, the gathering. You and your partners have been investigating strange events taking place in your home city of Arkham, Massachusetts. Over the past few weeks, several people have mysteriously gone missing. Recently, their corpses turned up in the woods, savaged and half-eaten. The police and newspapers have stated that wild animals are responsible, but you believe there is something else going on. You are gathered together at the lead investigator's home to discuss these bizarre events. And then there's a bunch of setup rules, which will include like setting up the Mythos deck, putting certain locations down, setting aside certain cards, and then eventually shuffling everything until you're good to go. Okay. And then don't read this stuff. All right. The good news is this module handles everything for you. So once I hit place, it put everything out for me. So right now, there's only one location. That's where we're going to be starting. So we'll put the 2 characters here. I believe you start an investigation phase on the first turn. Is there anything here? I don't think these can be flipped. Oh, they can. Okay. Yeah, so Mythos phase, you skip it on during the first round, so we're going straight to investigation phase. As you can see, there's Mythos, investigation, enemy, and an upkeep phase. All right, so real quick, we'll go ahead and we need the shuffle the encounter deck, so I'll shuffle it now. There's the agenda deck and the act deck. Acts is what we're generally going to be focusing on. It's going to require clues to progress, and generally progressing through acts is what you want to do to win the scenario, while the agenda is going to be gradually creeping its way along and making things worse, and eventually making you lose if you're not careful. All right, so agenda 1, or 1A rather. What's going on? It is late at night, so you're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting come from your parlor down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if something were digging beneath the floor. So in the bottom left there, it has the number 3. That represents how much doom is required to progress the agenda. During the Mythos step, there's a step during the sub-step in the Mythos phase where it'll check how much doom you have on the board, and if the doom meets or exceeds the agenda requirement, it will progress the agenda. In which case, we will flip the card over and do what's on the other side of the card, and then progress towards the next agenda if there is one. All right. And then for the act, we have trapped. As you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only a solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. On the bottom right here, you can see that there's a little magnifying glass with a 2 and then a little symbol beside it. So that symbol represents investigators. So it's essentially means 2 clues per investigator. So I'm playing this 2-handed, so I have 2 investigators. So this is actually I will require 4 clues to progress this act. Some acts will have more specific requirements, maybe requiring certain actions to happen before you can progress. But in more generic ones like this one, once I have 4 or more clues available amongst all my investigators, I can choose to progress the act. And in most cases, you generally want to progress the act as soon as possible. So we need 4 clues to progress. Over here, we have the what the various symbols do for the certain special symbols like the skull, the cultist, and the tablet. Skulls will do -X, where X is the number of ghoul enemies at your location. The cultist will do -1, and if you fail it, you also will take 1 horror. And the tablet is -2, and if there are any ghoul enemies at your location, you will take a damage on top of the failing the check. All right, so with all that said and done, give me 1 moment. Okay, I just wanted to verify some things. So the cultist token will trigger if you fail the check, as far as the additional effect, but the tablet will trigger regardless, which is kind of dangerous. The effect of the token always applies before the skill resolves. So if there's a situation where the damage kills you before when you reveal the tablet, then your check just fails because you died before you could do it. So good to know. I apologize ahead of time if I make a mistake out of any of the rules. I'm going to definitely make a lot of mistakes. Anyway, so we read about the act, we read about the agenda, I have shuffled the encounter, and then we're starting at the study. You've been investigating the strange events occurring in Arkham for several days now. Your desk is covered in newspaper articles, police reports, and witness accounts. So this is the unrevealed side of a location. When you're at a location, you're supposed to flip it over to its revealed side. But before I do that, I need to actually like get my starting hand and stuff like that. So we're going to shuffle the deck, draw 5 cards. Also, we start with 5 resources, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we can do a mulligan. Well, there's a couple things. For when you draw your 5 cards, if you draw any weakness cards, unless it says otherwise, you go automatically discard that, or you automatically set that card aside and draw another card. We didn't draw any weaknesses. We're good to go there. I'm going to go ahead and I don't need 2 Witten Greens, so I'm going to just put that aside for now. The rest of this is not terrible. So I'll go ahead and draw a... you can mulligan once, and you can the way mulligan works is you set aside those cards and then draw the number of cards you set aside. So I set aside one of the Witten Greens here, and we'll draw another card. And then once that's done, you just put everything back and shuffle. So she's good to go. Jenny, she's going to start with 2 damage because she has 2 physical trauma thanks to the In the Thick of It. By the way, we track all that up here. So I have Jenny Barnes here with 2 trauma. Also, each scenario or campaign has its own little log thing to kind of keep track of notes. All right. So shuffle, 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 and we're just gonna Unfortunately, this is the other hand, so I have to draw it this way, I believe, because I think if I draw it the other way, it's not going to work. Anyway, I start with Leo DeLuca, Backstab, Lone Wolf. You handle this one. And Quick Thinking. I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. Put that aside. And for this particular scenario, Lone Wolf is not going to be super useful, so I will go ahead and set that aside as well. I'll hold on to the Quick Thinking. So yeah, if I draw, yeah, it goes into my other hand, unfortunately. 2 and 3. Okay. And then everything else gets shuffled back in. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and flip this over. And like I said, this module handles a lot of the scripting for you. So when you flip it over, you see that it's the study. The flavor text, the door to your study has vanished. You can see in the picture there that there's an outline of a door. So the black circle with the number is Shroud. That's generally the difficulty of any investigate checks to try to get clues from this location. The little magnifying glass with the similar symbol that we had on the act card represents how many clues are put in that location. So for this one, it's 2 per investigator. We have 2 investigators, so we get 4 clues to start. So essentially, we need to get all the clues off of this thing to hopefully find a way out of this place. All right, so with that, we start with the investigation phase. The way investigation works is in any order, a player can start taking their turn, and once that person finishes their turn, the next investigator goes, and so forth. You can go in any order, but once an investigator starts their turn, they have to finish their turn before someone else can start. Every investigation phase, you do start with 3 actions. Every round you start with 3 actions, and each of those actions can do certain things like play cards and so forth. You see here the actions that are available is you can draw a card, you can gain a resource. So essentially I could just draw a card and gain a resource. This tends to be rather inefficient, but it is something to do if you have nothing better to do. You can play an event or an asset card. Fast cards do not count as an action for this. Activate an arrow ability on a card, which we talked about with those weaknesses. You can move to a connecting location, which right now there are no connecting locations. You can investigate a location, which is probably what we're going to be doing. You can fight or engage an enemy. When you fight an enemy, you'll just attack them, and if you succeed, you'll do damage or something. Engaging is where you essentially force the enemy to be in your threat area rather than someone else's. Or in the case of aloof enemies, it forces them into your threat area instead of being nowhere. You can also spend an action to attempt to evade an enemy that's engaged with you. So if someone's for example, if there's a monster engaged with Ursula, Jenny could use an action to engage it to force it to be engaged with her instead. Another option is Ursula could try to evade it, in which case it can get exhausted and unengaged. And then there's these things here, lightning bolts and reaction cards do not cost actions to activate. Also, this final little point here, if you are engaged with an enemy and you spend an action to do anything other than fight, evade, or activate a parlay or resign ability, all the enemies that are engaged with you will attack you as an attack of opportunity. So, with that, sorry, it's a mouthful. A lot to talk about in this first little session here. Anyway, I'm going to start with Ursula. And we need to get started on some Kluven here. Or do I want to get someone else out? You know what? I'll start with Jenny. So Jenny's first action is actually going to be getting a resource. That gets her up to 6 resources. Her second action is to get to play Leo DeLuca, who's an ally. So in the top left, there's that number 6. That represents how many resources it costs to play a card. Play this card. You might also notice that the Leo DeLuca title up there, there's a little asterisk or star next to it. That represents that as a unique card. A unique card, only one can be in play at a time. So if I happen to draw my second Leo DeLuca, I wouldn't be able to play it for multiple reasons. Also, if there's another investigator in your group that has also Leo DeLuca in their deck, they wouldn't be able to play theirs if you have yours out. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working with another player, to make sure you don't have overlapping unique cards. Anyway, I spent my 6 resources and my action to go ahead and play this. Conveniently, there's slots. You do have a limited number of slots. Ally, if you look in the bottom right, there's a symbol that represents what slot it takes up. In this case, it's an ally. So if I were to get another ally card that's not Leo DeLuca and I want to play him, I would have to replace this character or somehow get an additional ally slot. Anyway, his special ability, he's an ally criminal. You may take an additional action during your turn. I was born in Mississippi, Louisiana just sounded better. And then in the bottom, you notice that he also has health and sanity. Allies usually will be able to take hits for you. All right, so with all that said and done, I'm going to go ahead and copy this because now I have an additional action. So I have a 4th action here. All right. So with that, I have 2 actions remaining. I've used up all my resources. I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to go ahead and do some investigates. I'm going to go ahead and investigate twice. So 1 and 2. Or sorry, I should do this one at a time, sorry. So I have 3 book, and this is 2 shroud. So I'm 1 ahead of it. And there's this button here that will grab a random token from the chaos bag. So, and I get a 0. So there'll either be a number modifier, which will just add or reduce your skill value, or it'll be a symbol, which will do much the same, plus some additional effects. This red token is auto-fail, which means no matter what, you will always fail. And then this is an elder sign, which will usually do some sort of bonus based off your character. All right, so I did pass the first time, so I do get one of the 4 clues here, and I'll add it to there. All right, and then for the last action, which Leo DeLuca has provided, I'm going to go ahead and investigate again. This time it's at -1, so I have 3, so that goes down to 2. And I did meet or beat this, so I do get the other clue. All right. I'm a little worried because I don't have my weapons out yet, but I do at least have Leo DeLuca. All right, so with that, Jenny is done. So now we'll go with Ursula. So first action for Ursula, I'm going to go ahead and spend 3. Actually, I will... Yeah, I'll go ahead and spend 3. And I'm going to go ahead and get Disc of Itzamna out. This is an accessory. Do they fear it because of what it will do to them, or do they fear it because of what it will do to you? So this is a protective amulet, which if a non-elite enemy spawns at my location, I can discard this to automatically evade it or do 2 damage to it. Alright, second action, I'm going to go ahead and play Burning the Midnight Oil, which will do an investigate action, but also gain me 2 resources. So I'm going to gain 2 resources. I'm currently, it's 2 shroud. I have 4 book on Ursula. She's generally better at doing the clooving. And also, whenever you do a skill check, you can choose to commit cards. The person doing the skill check can generally commit as many cards as they want as long as it has matching symbols. So in this case, this is a book test, so I have to commit cards that have book. So for example, I can't commit this fieldwork. I could commit this Witten Green, but what that will mean is I have to discard it. Any cards you commit will get discarded. There are 3 classes of cards, by the way. There are assets, which is what I've been playing. This thing I just played as Burning the Midnight Oil is known as an event. Assets tend to stay on your board, and generally are things like equipment or allies. Events are kind of one-time things like special attacks and abilities that you just do once. And then there are skills. Skills generally you can't play, but you can commit. So deduction here will provide 1 additional book, which will mean I'll have 5 book instead of 4. And if I succeed the test, it will also, and it's while investigating a location, I'll get 1 additional clue at that location. So I'm going to go ahead and commit deduction, putting me up to 5. And with that, I beat the check, and since I did the deduction, I'll get both the clues. Alright, so we're at this. I knew I had seen this symbol before. I must warn the others before it is too late. Alright, I have 1 action remaining. I gained 2 resources thanks to the Burning the Midnight Oil. I am going to go ahead and play... Well, actually, before I do anything, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and progress the act. So clicking here will just remove all the clues for us. And we'll flip this over. Oop. Alright, the door on the floor. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see the door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to your study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. Put into play the set-aside hallway, cellar, attic, and parlor. Discard each enemy in the study, which there are none. Place each investigator in the hallway, and then remove the study from the game. Alright. Set aside. So we want the hallway, the attic, the cellar, and then the parlor. And then the scripting will actually do these connections here, which we'll talk about in a bit. We'll go ahead and remove the study. And we actually end up in the hallway. A moment of panic and disorientation strikes you as you land upon the floor of the hallway. The world spins as if turned on its head. Alright, so this location has 1 shroud, but it has 0 clues, so there's nothing here. The walls of your house are splattered with mud, and your hardwood floor is gone, replaced with a dirt path. So in the top left, you'll see that there's this little symbol there, which is that square. And then the bottom, there's that triangle, plus sign, and diamond. So the top symbol represents the symbol for that location, and then the bottom symbols represent what locations they are connected to. So over here, you have a diamond, which is connected to the triangle, and then the plus sign. And then you can look here, it's also, you can see that the plus sign is connected back to the hallway through the way of that square. Thankfully, the module here handles all this for you. You can see the little lines here. Alright, so with that, we go to the next part. The barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. As you move toward it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. Objective. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend the requisite number of clues they advance, and we need 6 clues in total. Alright, so over here in the parlor, you'll note that the entrance to the parlor is blocked by a darkly glowing and unfathomable barrier. You cannot move into the parlor. You're unsure what would happen if you tried to cross the threshold of the strange barrier, but based on its extreme heat, you're sure as hell don't want to try. Alright, so with that, we've progressed the act, and now we can go ahead and take actions if we want to. What I would like to do is spend my last action. I'm tempted to move, because that would be nice, because I can at least use my ability, but I'd rather get out some allies. So I'm going to go ahead and spend my 4 resources here and get Witten Green out. So Witten Green, Hunter of Rare Books. While I have a tome or relic asset, I will gain +1 book. So I do have a relic, So I am now up to 5 book. Also, after you reveal a location or put a new location into play, exhaust Wit and Green, you can search the top 6 of your deck for a tome or relic asset and draw it and then shuffle your deck. So unfortunately, I couldn't trigger that yet. I mean, I could have gone in a different order. I could have played Wit and Green first and then did that, and that would have actually given me the option to do the top 6, which would have been smarter, but that's fine. Anyway, that is our last action, so everyone is done. We now progress towards the enemy phase. There are no enemies on the board, so we're not going to worry about that. Go straight into upkeep. So upkeep, you click this button here. So you draw 1 card, gain 1 resource. And then over here, draw 1 card, and then you also, Jenny Barnes' special ability is going to give her an additional resource. Alright, so with all that said, that is it for the upkeep. That means this is the end of round 1. We're now going into our first ever Mythos phase. For posterity, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the encounter deck, because we haven't drawn anything from it yet. And we'll go through the Mythos phase. So, Mythos. Place 1 Doom on the agenda. So we go over to this big number here, click it, and now we're up to 1. So we're 1 out of 3. Next. Advanced agenda if Doom threshold is satisfied. Then each investigator draws 1 card from the top of the encounter deck. I'm going to go in the order of the lead investigator going first, and then going to Jenny. So, draw. Grasping Hands. Test foot 3. For each point you fail by, you take 1 damage. Alright, currently I have 4 foot. I have a few things that can commit to it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. This true understanding would actually help a lot, but unfortunately the location I'm in doesn't have clues on it, so I'm not going to use that. So, 4 to 3. I got the Elder Sign. Alright, after this test ends, you may move to a connecting location. Alright, so that did give me +1 as well, so it was 5 to 3, so I do pass. I don't take any damage. Decaying Hands rise up from below and grasp and claw at your ankles. Alright, so for her Elder Sign, I can actually move to a connecting location. Do I go to the cellar, or do I go to the attic? I'm going to go to the cellar, and we'll see what happens. So, move down here. The stairs leading down to the cellar are slick, and they glisten with a thin layer of ice. Alright, so this place has 4 Shroud and 4 Clues. After you enter the cellar, you will take 1 damage. Now, I can either put this on Ursula or put it on Wooden. I'll put it on Wooden. And then your cellar seems to have been replaced with an underground network of icy tunnels and caverns. The cold chills you to the core. And then on the bottom right, it says Victory 1. What this means is for locations, if a location has no clues on it, you will be able to get experience points from this location after the scenario ends. So usually any places that have victory, you want to get all the clues from, even if you don't need them. Alright, so I did move, which is going to trigger a lot of things. One is I can go ahead and do Wit and Green's ability because I just revealed a location. So I'm going to go ahead and exhaust her and look at my top 6 cards. So over here I can set it to search 6, and I could take any tome or relic asset. Alright, so I have a few options. Alright, so the only options I have is Tooth of Etsley, Archaic Glyphs. Archaic Glyphs is a tome, and Tooth of Etsley is a relic. I'm going to go ahead and take the Archaic Glyphs and put that in my hand. Alright, and then for my other ability, after you move to a location, you can take an Investigate action, limit once per round. Let's see, as long as this is on a scenario card. Give me a moment. Okay, that's what I figured. So an investigation action can't be used for true understanding, which is unfortunate. But I will go ahead and do this free investigate action because I might as well. I have 5 to 4. I could commit the Archaic Glyphs, but I kind of want to play it so I can get stuff done with that. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so here we go. There are no ghoul enemies in play, so that's a 0, so I do pass. So I do get the first clue here. And this all happened during the Mythos phase, which is pretty neat. This actually showed off a lot of Ursula's ability. Alright, And then we've resolved that mythos, event card, or sorry, mythos card, and we're gonna go ahead and, or sorry, encounter card. That's the proper term. I'm gonna go ahead and draw Ginny's. She also gets grasping hands. I did shuffle. You guys saw me. So 3-3 right now. I can commit things if I need to. For now, I think I'll just try it and see what happens. So 3-3. All right. So there are no ghoul enemies, so I don't take additional damage, but I am going to take 2 damage in total. I want to put 1 damage on Leo DeLuca, and I'll take the other one. So I'm 5 away from death for Ginny Barnes here, which is a bit unfortunate. All right, that is it for the Mythos phase. Yep. So we go straight into investigation. So again, get to take our actions here. All right. So I'm going to spend an action to go ahead and play Archaic Glyphs. So this thing doesn't do much by itself, but there are cards that you can quote unquote research, and then if you can research them, you can get some pretty nice stuff. You can get some pretty nice upgrade options. Problem is it takes a while. So for this, we have to discard a card with at least 1 book icon. Question marks are wild, so those count. But beyond that, there's not much else I can do with this. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a card for my next action. I'm going to go ahead and play that magnifying glass. This card has the word fast on it, which means I can play it without spending an action. This will give +1 book, but only while investigating. So I have 6 book while I'm investigating, but 5 otherwise. A lens into a world unseen can reveal things you wish it hadn't. Oh yeah, these things are hand icons on the bottom right. If it's 1 hand, it takes up only 1 hand slot. If it's 2 hands, it takes up both. So that's both my hands taken care of. I still have an action remaining. I'll go ahead and investigate this location. I'm now 6-4. I pass with the Elder Sign again. I'm not going to move again because I don't need to. And that'll be it for Ursula there. All right, Ginny. I'm going to go ahead and spend a resource to go ahead and play Lone Wolf. And I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources. So that was my first action. Second action, I'm actually going to go ahead and gain a resource. Third action, I'm going to go ahead and spend those 3 resources to get out my British Bulldog. So this starts with ammo on it. So once it runs out of ammo, I won't be able to use the gun anymore, essentially. So Lone Wolf, what this will do, there's a limit. You can only have 1 in play per investigator. And as a reaction at the start of my turn, if there's no other investigators around, I can gain more resources. I don't mind being on my own. That's when I do my best work. And then over here, I can spend an action and 1 ammo to essentially do a fight action. I can choose to either use fist or foot for this. And if I succeed, it does extra damage. Usually when you do a fight action, it does 1 damage. This will do 2. There's also a reaction ability where if you failed to parlay, you can play this for free. But I'm currently I don't have the luxury of doing parlay actions right now. I do have 1 action remaining, which I am going to go ahead and use to go ahead and move. I'm going to go hang out here in the attic. The smell of rotten meat assaults your nostrils as you approach the attic stairs. So this has 4 clues and only shroud 1. After you enter the attic, take 1 horror. The bloody carcass of a malformed beast swings from a meat hook chained in to the ceiling. Blood drains slowly from the carcass, dripping into the small barrel. Also, I don't think I read this. Your cellar seems to have been replaced with an underground network of icy tunnels and caverns, so the cold chills you to the core. All right, so I take 1 horror. I'm going to put it on Leo DeLuca. All right, and that is it for Ginny. So we now go to enemy phase. There are no enemies. So we're going to go ahead and go straight into upkeep. So we'll go ahead and do upkeep for Ursula first. Okay. gets a Eureka card. And then for Ursula, she's going to get a resource and then another resource from her ability. All right, and then Derringer. That's nice. Okay, and then we start a new round. Mythos is now 2 out of 3. We'll go ahead and draw our next encounter card. Frozen in Fear. Put Frozen in Fear into play in your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade, each round it costs 1 additional action. At the end of your turn, you can do a 3 will check. If you succeed, you discard it. So this will stick around for a bit. All right, next. Obscuring Fog. Attached to your location, limit 1 per location. Attached location gets +2 Shroud. After attached location is successfully investigated, discard Obscuring Fog. So this is unfortunate because now this is 3 Shroud instead of 1. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and that is it for Mythos. Go straight into investigation again. All right. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I'm 6-4 on this thing, so I don't actually need to use anything special for this. So yeah, first action, I'm actually going to go ahead and do I want to discard? Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and spend my first action to draw a card. Okay, I can work with that. All right. So my second action, I'm going to go ahead and investigate. So 6-4. I pass, since that's now 5-4. So I get 1 clue here. All right. And then my last action, I'm actually going to go ahead and use this ability here. So yeah, so I will discard anything with a book icon. So I'm going to go ahead and discard this Unexpected Courage, and I'm going to put 1 resource on this. I'm just seeing it doesn't exhaust it. Okay. All right, and then that is it. So next I have to do the 3 brain tests. I didn't do move, fight, or evade, so I didn't have to spend any extra actions. So I have to do a 3 brain check, and so I'm going to commit this True Understanding. Scenario card is pretty much anything that isn't it's anything that's not from your deck, and that's pretty much it. And it isn't a basic action essentially. All right, so I'm going to commit True Understanding, which brings me to 4-3, and then I'm going to commit this Eureka, which will give me. You notice there's multiple symbols. Only the symbols that matter will apply. So in this case, it'll be the will. So this will bring me up to 5-3. So 5-3. All right. What this will do is -1, which brings me down to 4-3. And if I had failed it, I would have taken a horror. But I do pass. So the passing will do a couple of things. One is going to discard this. Second, this True Understanding, since I succeeded on the skill test, you can discover a clue at my location. So I'll get this last clue. And then this Eureka, if you pass the check, you can look at the top 3 cards of my deck and draw it and then shuffle the deck. Which I don't remember if I even did that last time. All right. I can get a Mouse Mask, Tooth of Etzli, or Burning the Midnight Oil. Let's grab the Mouse Mask. Okay. And then we can go ahead and shuffle that. Oop, that's the wrong button. Shuffle, shuffle. All right, that is everything for her. Next, we got Jenny. At the start of her turn, if there's no other investigator, she gains 1 resource. So she's up to 4 now. All right. I'm going to spend 3 resources to go ahead and get out my Derringer. That's my first action. Second action. Actually, you know what? Let's turn this on. Enable. Oh. Let's just get rid of tokens. Instead of playing that, let's go ahead and play the Medallion. So the Medallion's kind of funny. This is her unique what it does is I can spend up to 3 resources to exhaust it and put those resources on it, and then at the end of this scenario, every 6 offerings will get her more experience. So I have the opportunity to do this, so I might as well. So I'll go ahead and exhaust this and spend 3 resources. This is a lightning bolt. Just stack them because we're going to need a lot of them. So that gets us 3 resources. All right. And then my second action is to gain. I'm going to go ahead and gain a resource, and then gain another resource, and then use my last action to go ahead and get out the physical training. All right, so now I have ways to buff up my stats with money. Well, actually, yeah, I'm actually okay with this. All right, not the most efficient turn, but it'll at least get the Screen Man medallion thing going. All right, that is everything. So we'll go ahead and go to enemy phase. No enemies so far. Go to upkeep. Okay, field work. Unfortunately, the field works are pretty useless now because I'm not going into places that have clues anymore. And we got an extra Leo de Luca that we don't need. Okay, and then Jenny is supposed to get another resource. So we'll go ahead. Oh, actually, did that do that automatically? Just testing something. Oh, it's doing it automatically. In that case, I actually gave myself 2 extra resources. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just take back the physical training here and just get a resource. And then it'll go up to here. So that was my bad. I didn't realize Jenny was actually coded to automatically give the extra resource. So the past couple of turns, I have been giving myself more resources than I had. So I took back 2 resources. And unfortunately, that meant I did not have enough to play the physical training. So I used the last action to go ahead and just gain a resource and go from there. So that's my bad. Didn't realize it. All right, upkeep, Mythos. We're now going to go ahead and progress the agenda. So I'm just going to go ahead and reset back down to 0. All right, your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed, and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It is almost as if you have been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. The lead investigator must decide. Choose one. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or the lead investigator takes 2 horror. I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 horror. I'll put 1 on Ursula and 1 on Witten. Okay. That resolves that. Sorry, there's a cat in front of me. Next. All right, Rise of the Ghouls. Also, it was called a lapse in time, by the way. Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. So this has 7 Doom on it, or requires 7 Doom to advance. All right. With that, we're 2 clues away from advancing the act if we want to, though we have to be in the hallway to actually spend the clues. All right, so with all that, let's go ahead and, oh, right, we have to do encounter cards. So 1, Writing Remains. Test 3 will. For each point you fail by, take 1 horror. All right. This is just going to be 3 to 3. All right, this is a 0 because there's no ghouls yet, so this actually passes, just barely. All right, and then for Jenny, our first enemy, but this one has a special spawn rule. So usually when you draw a monster, it usually just goes straight to you and your location, but this one has a spawn thing for it, so this is actually going to spawn down in the cellar. This is a icy ghoul. Inside the tunnels beneath the house, a massive beast tears its way out of the ice. It is covered in a thick layer of frost, its breath visible in the bitter cold. So this thing has 3 fight, 4 health, and 4 evade. And then you can see it has victory 1. If you kill this monster, instead of putting this in the encounter discard, it actually goes into your victory display. And at the end of the scenario, for everything in the victory display, you'll gain experience points. Beside the little the torch thing, there's the 2 hearts and then the brain. That's how much damage and horror it does whenever it attacks you. This thing, so the way the 3 fists works is that is the difficulty to actually attack it. The 4 foot is how difficult it is to evade it, and then the 4 health is how much damage it can take before it actually dies. So this is going to spawn in the cellar, which is going to engage Ursula here, which is a little annoying. I mean, I do have, at the very least, I'll be able to get away from this thing. All right, and that was Jenny's card, so there we go. So now we can go straight into investigation phase. All right. So, first things first. Probably need to go help out what's going on over there. Well, so getting away from this thing is a non-issue. I've already gotten all the clues here, but this thing is worth victory, so I kind of want to keep it around. So I might do something a little spicy. Yeah, I think I'll do something spicy here. So I'm gonna move. I'm currently engaged with the Icy Ghoul, so I am going to be provoking an attack here. So I'm going to move up. I'm going to take 2 damage and 1 horror, so I'll take the 2 damage and the horror. My second action, also this thing does follow me, so that's why it's staying with me in my threat area. My second action, I'm going to go ahead and evade it. So I have 4 foot versus 4. I'm going to go ahead and commit both my field works. Oh, actually, sorry, I forgot about this Disc of Itzama thing. I'm going to go ahead and discard it. Actually, is it elite? It is not elite. So yeah, I'll go ahead and discard this and actually do 2 damage to it. Completely forgot about that. I can also use it to automatically evade, but I want to take this thing with me so I can actually have Jenny fight it. So I'm going to go ahead and evade. So I'm currently 6 to 4. And that was my, yeah, this is my second action. All right, +1, so I definitely evade it. So the way evading works is it gets disengaged and exhausted. While it's exhausted, it won't be able to do anything besides unexhaust itself when it takes an action. All right. Next, I'm going to go ahead and move up to deal with the attic. I am going to take a horror for this, but I'll take it. Since I moved into this location, I can go ahead and do my free investigate action. I'm currently 6 to 3 here. So I'll go ahead and do it. I do pass. Passing this check does get rid of the obscuring fog. And I'll get the clue here. Alright. Ursula's taken a bit of a beating, but that's okay. Alright, we'll have Jenny go next. So, Jenny. I'm just kind of thinking of what options I have here. Okay, well, bad news is since Ursula is here, I will not get the benefit from Lone Wolf. So I'm stuck at 3 resources here. All right. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just move down. Actually, first thing I want to go ahead and do currently 3. I'm just seeing kind of what my options are. Yeah, actually, I'm just going to go down and say hi to this thing. All right. I can shoot things that are not engaged with me. There's no risk there. The only time there's a risk of is if I attack someone that's currently threatening someone else. Like, for example, if this Ghoul was still threatening Ursula and I attempt to attack it with Jenny, if I fail the attack, the damage goes to Jenny. But in this case, there's no risk. So first action is I move. My second action is I'm going to go ahead and attack and use one of these bullets. So I'm currently 3 to 3. I can use foot with this, so I'm going to. I'm going to spend 2 resources to gain 3 foot, so I'm up to 6. So I'm 6 to 4 right now. I'm going to commit this Quick Thinking, which is a wild, so it goes up to 7 to 4. And I'm going to go ahead and commit Leo DeLuca, making it 8 to 4. So we got 8 to 4 right now. And I auto-failed. Alright, thankfully there's no special abilities on this, but I did miss out on getting the extra action from Quick Thinking. Okay. That's annoying. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and spend an action to gain a resource, and I'm going to spend my last action and another bullet to shoot the Icy Ghoul. Again, I'm going to use Foot, so I'm now 6 to 4. Alright, there is one ghoul, so it's -1, but that does hit, and it does 2 damage, which will kill it. So it's now up here. Alright, I knew that the auto-fail was eventually going to come at me. So, that was a little unfortunate. I did spend 2 resources. I don't know why I didn't take there. Alright. Oh, I think I forgot to say it. I think I forgot to spend it. That's what happened. So yeah, I gained a resource going up to 2, and then I spend it all for the attack. Alright. Okay, that is everybody taking action. Yep, that was both people. Okay, so now we go to enemy phase. There are no enemies because we killed it. Upkeep. Okay, deduction. And a cheap shot. Yeah, so it's definitely getting me 2 resources now. Good to know. So yeah, I apologize for that mistake. That does kind of affect the turn order a little bit, but I'm not gonna bother redoing the entire scenario for it. Mythos, add 1 to the Doom. And here we go. Draw. Crypt Chill, 4 brain. If you fail, choose and discard 1 asset you control. If you cannot, take 2 damage instead. Alright, I am 3 to 4. I'm not committing anything for it. 4 to 4, I do pass it, so I don't discard any assets. I can move if I want to, but I'm not going to. That is Ursula's 3rd Elder Sign, by the way. Dissonant Voices. Put this into your threat area. You cannot play assets or events. At the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. Alright. So, can't play any events or assets. I'm kind of stuck for this round. Alright. With that, it goes straight into investigation. I'll have Ursula go first. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and spend an action to go ahead and trigger the Archaic Glyphs. I don't need the Brain and Foot at this point, so I'll go ahead and just get rid of the Mouse Mask and get a resource on this. So 2 out of 5. Oh, sorry, after the 3rd secret is placed on Archaic Glyphs. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Actually, I will. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the... Actually, no, I won't do that. We're up to 2 now. I'm going to spend an action to do an investigate action. Use deduction here, so I'm now 7 to 1. I do pass. I get 2 clues because of deduction, putting us in a nice little situation here. So we have more than enough to progress the act if we want to, but I'm not going to yet. Last action is I'm going to go ahead and investigate. And I pass. So we got the victory from these locations, so we're good to go on that front. Okay. Next will be Jenny. Jenny is by herself, so Lone Wolf will trigger. And then there's not much else I can do. I know what's coming, so I don't exactly want to trigger the... I don't want to progress the act just yet. So instead, I'm just going to get myself 4 resources. Oh, actually, and then I can use a lightning bolt here to go ahead and add 3 more resources. I'll get exhausted. Okay. All right. At the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. So Enemy phase, nothing. Upkeep. Okay, just go to Zama. Upkeep that. And then that's the end of the round, so I'll go ahead and discard this. Mythos goes to 2. Draw a card. Ghoul Minion. Alright, so this one has no special rules, so it spawns out here. It was a colossal and nameless blasphemy with glaring red eyes, and it held in bony claws a thing that had been a man gnawing at the head of as a child nibbles at a sorry. It held in its bony claws a thing that had been a man gnawing at the head as a child nibbles at a stick of candy. Okay, so it starts out engaged with me. This one, hey, get a ghoul minion. All right, so we got some stuff to do. All right, and then goes to investigation phase. So right now, first action, I want to go ahead and evade this thing. I'm 4-2. This makes it 2-2. I do take 1 damage because it's a ghoul enemy, so I will take the 1 damage. And evade this. Actually, sorry, I need to do this the other way. Well, I just took my action, unfortunately. So, yep, that's unfortunate. Other action, I am going to go ahead and spend 3 to play Disc of Izama, my other one. And then my last action, I'm going to go ahead and move down. So unfortunately, I'm going to deny Jenny some money, but that's okay. All right, Jenny's turn. So yeah, she's not alone anymore. And kind of have some things to do with this guy. All right. Let's go ahead and spend an action to go ahead and take the shot. They have 2. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources to make it 6. So I'm 6-2. This will use the last bullet in this gun. I do, and then I get +1 for each resource I have. So this is now like 10-2, and I do 2 damage, which will kill this thing. All right, next action. I'm going to spend 3. Go ahead and get out the Derringer. I'm going to spend an action to gain a resource, and then I'm going to spend the last action to go ahead and get out the physical training. All right, that's everybody. Goes to enemy phase. There are no enemies. There is this ghoul minion, which does unexhaust, but other than that, it doesn't do anything. Monsters don't move unless they have rules that say otherwise. There is a keyword known as Hunter, which will make it go after you, but this one does not have Hunter. All right, upkeep. This is your unique card, which isn't that useful. It does provide more soak, though. All right. Next, let's see. Oh yeah, let's upkeep for you. There we go. All right. And then Mythos, Doom, draw, Obscuring Fog, attached to your location, so it gets attached to this location. It doesn't have clues to begin with, so it doesn't matter. And then draw. Flesh Eater. Okay, this is the victory for the attic. A monstrous creature feeds from the rotting carcass in the attic. So, it'd be nice to get that, if we can get it. Can I get it? Not easily. Alright, I'll start with Ursula, because that was all. Yeah, that's all the action, all the Mythos cards. Alright, I'll go ahead and spend my first action to draw a card. I'm going to spend my second action to go ahead and draw a card. Okay, this gets played here. This thing's kind of annoying, but I can't deal with it right now. I'm going to go ahead and use Shortcut. So what this does, you know this town like the back of your hand, fast, but play only during your turn. You can choose an investigator at your location and move that investigator to a connecting location. So up here it does 1 horror. Okay, so yeah, I'll go ahead and move her up there for 1 horror. These guys will engage. And then for my last action, I am going to go ahead and draw 1 last card. Okay, I can work with that. Alright, Jenny's turn. She's no longer with Ursula, so she does get a resource thanks to Lone Wolf. She's going to be a little busy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here, fortunately I can only use physical training to solve this problem. And I only do extra damage if I roll high enough. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to shoot the ghoul minion, which brings me up to 5-2. And I am going to go ahead and spend a resource to make it 6-2. Okay, I do 2 or more. I succeed by 4, which is 2 or more, so I do 2 damage to it, which will kill it. My second action, that was my first action, by the way, because I got moved through other means. Next, I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources to play Cheap Shot. What this will do is add your foot value to your skill attack. You'll do a fight action, and you get to add your foot. So I have 3 fist and 3 foot, so I'm now 6-4. I want to make it 7-4. 7-4. -2 brings it down to 5-4, which unfortunately means I did not get the automatic evade, but I did hit him for 1 damage. Okay. And then next, I'm going to go ahead and shoot him with the Derringer. So I'm now 5-4. Oh, also, I forgot I was supposed to take a damage there, so I will take a damage because of the tablet. So -1 puts it at 4-4, so I do pass. I'll only do 1 damage though. And this thing's going to hit me pretty hard, unfortunately, unless I get lucky. But I unfortunately did not get lucky. So we'll take 1 more shot. 5-4. And that's actually a fail, so I don't even do damage. Alright, so that is everybody. Goes to enemy phase. This thing's going to hit me for 2 sanity and 1 health. So this is getting a little scary. Upkeep. Alright. Could have used that sooner. Alright, and then Mythos. New round. Draw. Dissonant Voices, that's fine. Frozen Fear, that's annoying, but not the end of the world. Okay. Investigation phase. I'm going to go ahead and spend an action. Discard Witten. This will get me my 3rd resource, and then at this point I can discard Glyph and gain 5 resources, and then record in the campaign log that I've translated the glyphs. Translated them glyphs. Yo. Discard this, and then gain 5 resources. Put me at that. Alright. And then for my second action, I'm just going to draw. Okay. And my 3rd action, because I can't really play anything anyway, and I don't want to progress the act right now, I get a perception. Okay. I can work with that. Okay, Ginny, you're in a little bit of trouble. I do get a resource from Lone Wolf. I am going to go ahead and spend 2 to play my other Cheap Shot. This is a fight action, so I am going to be spending 2 actions instead of 1. I am 6 to 4 right now. I'm going to go ahead and play Manual Dexterity, which brings me up to 8 to 4. Alright, that's just -1, so that's 7 to 4, so I succeed. I'm going to do 1 damage. And Manual Dexterity, if you succeed in the test, draw 1 card. I will draw 1 card. And then this, if you succeed by 2 or more, you automatically evade it. So it is now currently evaded. I'm going to go ahead and spend a resource to get out the wolf mask. And then for my last action, I'm going to go ahead and punch it. So the way the wolf mask works is you can only have 1 mask at a time. It has 2 offerings. It replenishes an offering whenever I engage an enemy. If I spend an offering, I can only do this once per test, but I can get +2 fist or +2 foot. So yeah, last action, I'm going to punch. The Frozen Fear only affects the first time you do the special action. Also, I completely forgot to do the brain check. I apologize. I'll just do that now. It would have failed. Okay, now I'll do the check here. I'm going to spend one of the offerings, so I'm now 5 to 4. And we'll see what happens. 5 to 4. -1. I do 1 damage and I do kill it. Okay, we got all the special things taken care of. Next, I need to do a brain check again. This time I'll remember. So 3 to 3. I do pass. This is +0, so I do pass exactly. Okay, that's everybody. This is only because I got greedy. Like, if I had ignored the Flesh Eater, I would not be going through all this trouble. Enemy phase, no enemies. Upkeep. Oh yeah, Distant Voice is going to get discarded. Draw that. That's fine. And then draw that. Okay. Good times. Alright. Next, we go to new round. We're at 5 to 7. Draw. Rotting Remains. 3 brain. I'll go ahead and test it. I do pass. -0 right now because there's no ghouls. Next, a ghoul minion. When an enemy engages me, I do get back one of these offerings. So I will copy and place another one. Okay. Alright, and then it goes to investigation phase. I'll start with Jenny. Jenny's going to get 1 resource from Lone Wolf. I'm going to go ahead and punch this ghoul minion. This will make me 5 to 2. I succeed at -1, so I do 1 damage. Second action, I'm going to go ahead and use the other offering. That put me at 3 to 2, so I still succeed and kill it. Alright, next I'm going to move down. And my last action, I'm going to go ahead and gain a resource. Get that ready, because something tells me I'm going to need a lot of these. Alright, goes to Ursula. I'm going to go ahead and spend the requisite clues. Technically, you only need to spend 6, but I don't need the other clues for this one. Alright. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking passage into the parlor has vanished. Reveal the parlor. Put the set-aside Lita Chandler into play in the parlor. Spawn the set-aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Goes after highest fist, so it's going to go after Jenny. And then Lita's going to be over here. And we'll go ahead and flip this. Action resign. This is too much for me. You run out the door fleeing in panic. While Lita Chandler is not controlled by a player, she gains parlay. Action parlay, test 4 book. If you succeed, take control of Lita Chandler. Alright, while you control lead a Chandler, she gains each investigator at your location gets +1 fist. An investigator at your location successfully attacks a monster, that investigator will deal +1 damage. Okay. Alright. So, and then of course, down here we have the Ghoul Priest. It has 4 fist, 4 foot, and it has health based off investigators. It actually has 10 health. It has Hunter and Retaliate, which means Hunter means it during its turn, it will during the enemy phase, it'll move toward. If it's not engaged with someone, it'll move towards an investigator, and then attack them. Retaliate means if you ever fail a attack, he will counter with 2 with his damage. A figure in red robes wearing a bone mask, it gibbers and snarls before leaping to attack. If you beat him, he's worth 2 victory. Alright. So first thing I need to do, oh, and then for the agenda here, or act here, what have you done? Oh yeah, I didn't even read the name here. Breaking the barrier. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlor, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams, furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you. A creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Alright. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spend an action to go ahead and engage the Ghoul Priest. Because it's my fault that it went after Jenny there. Second action is I'm going to go ahead and attempt to evade it. I have 4 foot against 4 evade there. So I'm going to go ahead and commit Burning Midnight Oil. Actually, we'll just do Unexpected Courage. We don't need to do the others. So this puts me at 6 to 4. And I don't think there's any way for a -3, so here goes nothing. I pass, so he's now exhausted and evaded. Okay. And then for my last action, I'm going to go ahead and move to here. Alright. Alright, enemy phase. This is going to unexhaust and re-engage. That's it. Upkeep. Upkeep. Okay, Vicious Blow something. Mythos, we're up to 6 to 7. Swarm of Rats. Horde of cruel rats skitters forth in an undulating wave of claws, teeth, and mottled fur. And it has 1 fist, 1 health, and 3 evade. Crypt Chill, test 4 brain. I'll just do 3 to 4. I actually passed it. So, alright. Don't discard anything. I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal. I just discard one of my empty guns here. Oh, also, I did get engaged twice. I got engaged during the switching of the act there, and then got engaged again. So, after you engage an enemy. 1 second. Okay, I was just verifying. Their engagement is mutual, so whether or not I engage them or they engage me, it's the same. So I will get my offerings back. So one happened when he initially spawned, and then another happened when he unexhausted. So I'm back to full. Which means I could have used these to help me with the Crypt Chill, but I was not going to use it for that. Alright, so we're now in investigation phase. I'm going to start with Ursula first. Oh, also, I did move that this location doesn't have any clues, so there's no point in investigating here. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and Parlay. Parlay does not provoke, so I don't have to worry about the rats. Alright, so yeah, so I'll go ahead and do that. So I need a test 4 book. So this is not a Parlay action, it's not an investigate, so I'm now 5 to 4 right now. I am going to go ahead and use Perception here to make it 7 to 4. I do pass. I do get to draw a card for this. And that triggers it. Put Call of Unknown into play in your threat area. At the beginning of your turn, choose a location other than your location. When your turn ends, if you did not successfully investigate the chosen location this turn, take 2 horror and shuffle it back into your deck. So its keyword here is the beginning of your turn. I've already started my turn, so I don't need to worry about it this round. I'm just going to flip these around right now. Okay. Besides that, I did succeed on Parlay. I do get control of her. She does take up an ally slot. If it's a actual slot, like these ones, I can replace whoever's in that slot. So I'll go ahead and replace Witten with Lita here. This will give us plus 1 fist. That was our first action. Our second action is to go ahead and punch a rat. Oh, actually, I'll use Discus Zama. I should have done that. I keep forgetting I have it. So yeah, I'll just use that to kill it. There's no point in me doing anything otherwise. I should have done this when it spawned initially, but I keep forgetting I have it. So with that, I parlayed, finished. I'm going to go ahead and spend my second action to go ahead and move up to here. And then for my last action, I don't really have much else I can do here. I'll just draw a card for my last action. Okay. Jenny, she's not going to get Lone Wolf, but she does get the plus 1 fist from Lita, because it says each investigator at the location gets plus 1 fist. So now she has 4 fist. So at least she's now tied with the Ghoul Priest. And now we got to try to kill this guy. Okay. So the worst token here is just the -2. So I'm going to go ahead and just do an attack. I'm going to spend 1 resource to get plus 1 from physical training. And I'm going to go ahead and commit a vicious blow. So this brings me up to 6-4, and if I succeed, I get plus 1 damage. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that yet. Undo. Undo. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to evade. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources. Actually, can you help? Yes, you can. Well, she can't help enough, unfortunately. So other investigators in your location can commit cards to your skill check, but they're limited to only 1 card. So at best, she'll be able to give plus 1 foot, which is helpful, but not enough for what I want to do. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources. I'm going to evade. I'm going to get plus 3 foot thanks to Streetwise. So that gets me up to 6-4. So 6-4. I pass, so it's now exhausted and evaded. Now I'll fight it. While it's exhausted, it can't retaliate. That's why I did that, by the way. All right, now I'll attack it. I'm going to spend 1 resource for physical training, and then I'll commit this vicious blow. Okay, so I'm 6-4. I do pass. That was -1, and I don't take the horror, thankfully. So 2 damage. Okay, that's 1. All right, so next action. I'm going to go ahead and keep punching. Oh, actually, sorry. I completely forgot. Lead a Channeler. Whenever an investigator at your location attacks a monster enemy, it does plus 1 damage. This is a monster enemy, so it would have done 3 damage. Yeah, needless to say, you want to get Lita to help you with this fight. Otherwise, it gets a bit painful. Alright, so evaded, attacked, and here's my next attack. I'm 4 fist against 4. I'm going to go ahead and commit this physical training. Actually, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and use this offering from the Wolf Mask to bring me up to 6. So 6-4. I will take 1 damage from this, but because it's at my location, right? Yeah, there's a ghoul enemy at this location, so I take 1 damage. But I do succeed. I will do 1 damage and then plus 1 damage from Lita Channeler, so 5 in total. And then for my last action, I'm going to go ahead and do it again. I'll spend the I'll spend the Wolf Mask, that's fine. So that'll put me the 6-4 again. It's an auto fail. Thankfully the retaliate it's not going to trigger. Alright. Last thing I'm going to go ahead and do. Do I want to risk the Green Man Medallion? I don't think I want to. I think it's... you know what? I will. I'm crazy like that. So, because every extra XP will help Ginny a lot. Okay, so that's everybody. Goes to enemy phase. It's going to re-engage. You're going to get an offering. Goes to upkeep. Good news for Ursula here is I don't have to worry about any more weaknesses because she has both of them. Whew, that British Bulldog would help, but that's okay. Alright, Mythos. It does progress. The tunnels below, a frail beast, roughly humanoid, with a canine cast and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you can see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a ghoul enemy is discarded. The lead investigator draws that enemy. And that's a ghoul. It's going to engage you. Well, I don't have a disc in Zama this time. Alright, and then they're getting out. You hear a crazed howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves one location towards the parlor. At the end of the round, place one doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlor. So we currently have 2 ghouls in the hallway. We have the ghoul minion and the ghoul priest. So instead of getting 1 doom, we're now getting 3 doom, which will be annoying. Anyway, so with that, now we do encounter cards. Ancient Evils. Place 1 doom on the current agenda. This can cause the current agenda to advance. So something to note is adding doom to the agenda does not automatically advance it because it only gets checked on the Mythos phase. But some of these cards will do it anyway. Dark forces start against you. If you do not act quickly, a sinister plot will be fulfilled. So we go ahead and add 1 to this. Frozen Fear. Okay, that's a little annoying, but not the end of the world. Okay, and with that, we go to investigation phase. All right, so I have to declare this for a Call of the Unknown, unfortunately. Choose a location other than your location. I'll choose the parlor. And if I don't go and investigate it, I'm going to take 2 horror, and this gets reshuffled in. Which, I have 7 cards left in the deck, so it is probably something I'll need to take care of. All right. So I'm, 2-fist right now? I can get up to 3. That's not going to be super helpful. But if we kill the Ghoul Priest this round, we're good to go. So let's kill the Ghoul Priest this round. How do I want to do this? Okay, I know what to do. Ursula's going to go first. Ursula is going to evade the Ghoul minion. So I'm 4-2. I pass. It's evaded. Second action, I'm going to engage the Ghoul Priest. And then I'm going to evade it. So 4-4. Let's make that... let's make that 6-4. I pass. It's now evaded and exhausted. Okay. And that's all of her actions. And then she's going to take 2 horror. I'll put both of it onto Lita. And then this is going to get reshuffled in. Okay. Alright. Ginny. So now I don't have to worry about spending actions to evade with her now. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get enough to... Do I get greedy? That's the question. Do I get greedy? Yeah, I think I'm going to get greedy. Why not? First action, gain a resource. Then I'm going to spend those 3 resources to get 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm going to spend 2 actions. to do a fight action. Well, actually, yeah, I don't have enough for the gun. I'll go ahead and use these last 2 actions to go ahead and use an offering and attack Ghoul Priest 6 to 4. There are 2 of them. It's 4 to 4. I still pass. I'll do 2 damage. Alright, and then last action, I will go ahead and commit this and this. So it's 6 to 4. 4 to 4. Alright, it has 1 health left. Okay. Goes to enemy phase. I'm going to have the Ghoul Priest, Ghoul Minion engaged here, and that'll get me an offering. And this will also engage and give me... Oh, also, I need to do the Frozen Fear check. I'm going to have Ursula commit a Guts to give +2 brain. And I succeed. So this gets discarded, and she draws a card. Alright. Anyway, these engage me. Both of them are going to give me an offering. I'm just going to leave them as resources. Alright, and then goes to... Oh, also, I should have taken 1 direct damage here, by the way, because I took 2 horror. So I should have taken direct damage. Okay. Upkeep. Eureka. And your weakness. Location farthest from you. Here, go up here. It's a monster. Location farthest from you. Jenny Barnes cannot gain resources via card effects. So, thick limbs like wet branches yearn skyward, high above the platform they swayed. Whether in agony or exaltation, Jenny could not tell. Alright. Does the resource effect happen? I don't know if it happens before or after. I'm just going to take the resource away. It's not going to matter in this case because I'm not going to be using the resource at all. Oh yeah, I forgot the end of the round thing. At the end of the round, place 1 doom for each ghoul. So this would have went up to 3. Now we go to new round, goes up to 4. Draw. Got a ghoul minion. Draw. Get a ravenous ghoul. Prey lowest remaining health. You have 3 health. You have 2 health. This will give an offering, but I'm maxed out at 2. 3/3/3 monster does 1 damage and 1 brain. The sight of the thing raised the question, do we eat to live or do we live to eat? Alright, and with that, we go to investigation phase. Okay, it's going to be just all up to Jenny now. Yeah, Jenny's going to evade first because it's safer. I'll commit this backpack and use an offering, so that puts me up to 6 to 4. Ooh, actually, this could fail. Oh, this could definitely fail. It failed anyway. Awesome. This is actually kind of scary. Alright. I'm going to go YOLO. I'm going to attack. Use the last offering, so I'm 6 to 4. Alright, I take 1 damage, which I barely survive. It's only -2. Yeah, the issue here is the skull. It would have been -4 because there's 4 ghouls here. But I succeed. 4 to 4. I do kill the ghoul priest. And he goes up here. Okay. If the ghoul priest is defeated, advance. When the robed creature falls, the fiendish swarm burrows back into the ground, and the chaos of the house quiets. But the stranger in your parlor doesn't seem relieved. You broke my seal. That was set to trap the ghouls within. She raises her torch. Now we must take more direct measures and burn this hell pit to the ground. Lead investigator must choose. It's also called defending the home. It was never much of a home. Burn it down. Resolution 1. Or this hell pit is my home. No way we're burning it down. Resolution 2. So we get a choice, and this choice will have repercussions. I'm going to burn it down. So we go to Resolution 1. You nod and allow the red-haired woman to set the walls and floor of your house ablaze. The fire spreads quickly, and you run out the front door to avoid being caught in the inferno. From the sidewalk, you watch as everything you own is consumed by flames. Come with me, the woman says. You must be told of the threat that lurks below. Alone, we are surely doomed, but together we can stop it. In your campaign log, record that your house was burned to the ground. The lead investigator earns the Lita Chandler card and may include it in his or her deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. All right. The elite investigator suffers 1 mental trauma from watching his or her home become a smoldering ruin. So your house has been burnt to the ground. Burn that house. And 1 mental trauma. And then each investigator earns experience equal to victory X value of each card in the victory display. Remember to add eligible locations to the victory display. Each investigator earns 2 bonus experience as he or she gains insight into the hidden world of the mythos. So our total is 6 plus 2, so that's 8 experience. Jenny has 12 resources on this. Every 6 resources on this reduces the experience points cost of the next card you purchase before the next scenario by 1. So she can buy something for 2 less using that. All right, and then with that, yeah, it's talking about earning and spending experience, and you can upgrade cards. So the way it works is you can either buy an entirely new card, in which case it replaces whatever card you want to replace in the deck. You do have to maintain your deck rules as far as that's concerned. Some things to note is there are upgrades of existing cards. Like there's a magnifying glass that costs 1 experience that does slightly more things. You are still one of the limits of deck creation is, unless it says otherwise, you can only have 2 of the same name of a card in your deck. So if I were to buy a magnifying glass that cost 1, and I already have 2 magnifying glasses in the deck, I have to replace one of them, which is generally what it means by upgrading a card. Anyway, other than that, yeah, so talking about trauma and all that good stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here for a moment, and I'll get back to once I figure out what I'm going to spend my experience on. All right, so one thing I do need to talk about is the Taboo list. Taboo list is essentially kind of how they kind of patch the game, where they will change how some of the cards work, either buffing them or nerfing them. Generally, when you decide to play with the Taboo list, it's an all or nothing thing, where you play with all of them or otherwise you don't. I am playing with no Taboo. I'm just fine with working with the game as is. That being said, there are some cards I may choose to not use just simply because they are pretty strong or insanely strong without Taboo. So don't be surprised if I don't use things like Double or Nothing or things like that. But just a FYI, that's why some things are, like Pathfinder is usually more expensive to buy in Taboo and so forth. So like I said, no Taboo list. All right, so with all that said and done, this should be flipped around. Okay, so I spent 3 experience to get Charisma. I wasn't planning on getting Charisma, but since Lita goes to the lead investigator, and I don't want to leave her out of this, I need to have an extra ally slot. So Charisma, when you turn on your charm, it could light the entire town. So that cost me 3 experience, so I have 5 left. I did research this Archaic Glyphs. There are 3 options, I believe, or upgrades for Archaic Glyphs, and each of them kind of have their own specialization. But this one I took is the Guiding Stones. It costs 3 experience, 2 to play. It goes to your Arcane slot, so it's no longer a tome. It's actually a spell. You can spend. It has 3 charges on it, and you can spend 1 charge to do an investigate, and for every 2 points you succeed by, you discover 1 additional clue at your location. So it kind of sort of works like a deduction type thing. Essentially, one of the most important things in this game is action economy, and anything that can let you do multiple things at once, either getting more clues or doing more damage in one single action, is very, very good to have. So Archaic Glyphs, got that in. And then, so that was 3 experience, so I have 2 experience left. I replaced one of my shortcuts with Pathfinder. This is a talent It's an asset that doesn't take a slot, costs 3 to play, and during your turn is a lightning bolt. If you are not engaged with any enemies, you can exhaust Pathfinder to move to a connecting location. So this is a way for her to move without spending an action and then still get the benefit of her special ability. Searchers are after horror, haunt strange, far places. And then with my last experience point, I went ahead and got Segment of Onyx. Now this thing is called, it has Myriad on it, and what Myriad does is, if you remember, I said there was a 2-card limit for any specific card. Myriad breaks that rule and allows you to have up to 3 of that card instead. So there's 3 of these cards. Also, Myriad means you can spend 1 experience to get all 3 of the cards instead of just 1. Usually you have to pay, like for example, if I wanted 2 of these books here, I would have to spend 6 experience. But to get all 3 of these, I just need to spend 1. So the way this works is it's a fast card that you can spend 1 to play. And if you have all 3 copies out, you can, as a lightning bolt action, you can discard all of them. Or sorry, set them aside out of play, and then you can bring out the Pendant of the Queen, which is a accessory that does a bunch of fancy things. Like it can it has 3 charges on it, and when it runs out of charges, it breaks apart again back into its segments. But each of the charges you can exhaust as a lightning bolt action to pick a reveal location, and you can either instantly move there, discover a clue there automatically with no test, or you can automatically invade someone that's at that location. It's a very, very versatile and powerful card if you can get all the pieces out. So these are 3 cards, so I need to replace 3 of my cards here. So I swapped out the Tooth of Etzli. I swapped out 1 of my Mouse Mask, and I swapped out 1 of my Fieldworks. I'm not really a big fan of the Fieldworks. I know why they're generally used on Ursula, but as you notice, I ended up not even using these Fieldworks at all, so it is what it is. So these cards are now removed. Yeah, all of these are removed. This is removed, and this is removed, and then these will get added in. The Charisma stays out in play because it's a permanent card. And we're good to go there. Alright, give me a moment and I'll take care of Jenny next. Alright, so I have 12 resources on the Green Man Medallion, which makes it so I can reduce the cost of the next item I purchase in the next scenario by 2. Because it's 6, every 6 reduces it by 1. So I'm going to use that use that to reduce the cost of this backpack upgrade from 2 to 0 and replace my other backpack, and then I'm going to spend 2 experience more to get the other backpack upgraded. So essentially this makes the backpack cheaper, it searches for a lot more cards, and it also has a fist icon if I ever need to commit it for anything. So with that, I've spent 0 and 2, so I have 6 experience left. I'm going to replace both Leo de Lucas with upgraded forms of him, which each cost 1 experience. He does the exact same thing, the only difference is he costs 1 less now, so he only costs 5 instead of 6. And then the last set of upgrades, I have 4 experience left. I'm going to upgrade both British Bulldogs to their level 2 version. It essentially does the same thing, except now it does +2 to the skill value. So that'll make it a little bit more more usable, since it originally just didn't have any modifiers. I was tempted to upgrade the Derringers, but I wasn't sure how easily I was going to be able to trigger its extra action effect. So that is everything, and with that, the only thing that remains is to dive into the next scenario, which I will do in a later video. So I am the Depressed Dior. This was Arkham Horror, the card game, doing the Night of the Zealot, first scenario of the Gathering. Again, I apologize for any rules mistakes. I hopefully caught most of them while I was doing it. And hopefully these videos will go a little bit faster as we get more and more familiar with the game. So, see you guys next time.